My ex-wife slipped into our bedroom and shaved my current wife's head while she slept, aiming to humiliate her at our daughter's wedding. I refused to let such viciousness stand unchallenged. What I did in response drove her from the event in floods of tears. Before we go on, please subscribe to the channel and share in the comments where you're tuning in from. The phone rang shrilly across the kitchen, piercing the calm evening breeze wafting through my open window. I was slicing vegetables for supper, savoring the quiet routine after a grueling day of teaching about Civil War strategies that my students would likely ignore by next week. The caller ID twisted my gut. Margaret Ellis, 3 days before Emily's wedding. And she was phoning. Calls from Margaret never brought anything but trouble these days. Hello? Margaret. I kept my tone even, composed. The same measured voice I used with stubborn undergrads questioning key dates. Wade, I won't tolerate that woman spoiling our girl's big day. Her words cut through the line like a sharpened blade. No greetings, no chit-chat. Classic Margaret. I laid down my knife gently, drying my hands on a cloth towel. Clara is part of my life now, and Emily welcomed her personally. Part of your life, she let out a harsh, biting laugh. That survivor you latched onto. She's been your wife for what? 4 years. I gave you 19 years. Wade, 19 years and a daughter. My teeth ground together. Clara is my spouse, and she'll attend the wedding. Emily insists on it. Emily's just being courteous. She doesn't want to wound you. But picture that woman front and center where I belong. Solitary and shamed. It's mortifying. I started striding back and forth in my compact kitchen. Phone clamped to my ear. You'll have the front row. Margaret, on the opposite side. That's standard for separated parents. Spare me the lecture on separation. Wade, you're the one who bolted from 19 years chasing some crisis delusion. The barb struck hard, like a solid punch. I left because you were entangled with your property agent. Let's not distort the past. A heavy pause hummed over the connection. When she replied, her tone dripped with that false honey I knew all too well. Old news. Wade, the point now is Emily's milestone. And I'm warning you, if she appears, I'll ensure the crowd grasps the sham of your so-called union. What do you mean by that? Oh, please. A frail lady who can hardly finish a meal without dashing off. Emily merits more than her snapshots wrecked by your pity project. My empty fist balled up tight. Don't you dare. I'm not issuing threats. Wade, just facts. Certain folks aren't built for gatherings. Particularly the delicate ones like your darling Clara. The malice in her speech hurled me back 9 years to our last brutal exchanges, when talks turned to trenches. But now, she targeted an innocent who only loved me. Emily chose Clara, and Clara will be present. Discussion over. We'll see. Her whisper slithered low. You were always so trusting. Wade, clinging to bliss and myths. Some souls just don't deserve them. The call dropped dead. I gripped the lifeless phone, gazing at the New York City skyline as dusk shadows crept over my kitchen tiles. My fingers trembled faintly from rage, from that old powerlessness Margaret always stirred. 9 years post-split, and she could still claw into me over wires. Yet this felt altered. This time, her barbs weren't solely mine. I set the phone aside, slumped against the counter, eyes shut. Margaret's spite lingered in my ears, but my thoughts wandered to warmer eras, seeking solace in brighter recalls. I could nearly taste the coffee perking in our former kitchen on Oak Avenue. Morning rays poured through the cream drapes Margaret had stitched by hand. She was 30 then, singing softly as she fixed breakfast, her raven locks glowing in the dawn. Emily was just learning to waddle, shuffling amid us in her wee lavender sleepers, and we'd chase her stumbles and turns. We'll age side by side. Right, Wade Margaret had murmured one night, nestled close on our navy couch as Emily dozed above. We'd caught a sappy film, and she'd sketched shapes on my shirt with her nail. Swear we'll mimic the Johnsons next door. Still clasping hands at 75. I'd press lips to her crown, inhaling her floral rinse. Naturally we will. You, me, Emily eternally. Those lazy Sunday flapjack mornings, blooms scattered about. Emily perched on a stool to aid the flips, Margaret steering her tiny grip. The trio of us smeared in dough, chuckling till our ribs ached. Margaret pulled silly grimaces to lure Emily from the sizzling pan, morphing into this tender, whimsical, nurturing soul. Holiday dawns were enchanting. Margaret labored weeks ahead, tying lavish ribbons on gifts, burning midnight oil to piece Emily's playthings. She'd brew cocoa topped with fresh froth while I recited Yuletide tales. Emily would nod off, wedged between us on the sofa, and Margaret would breathe. This is ideal. Isn't it all I've craved? The seaside getaways to the Hamptons, leasing the identical cozy cabin yearly. Margaret coaching Emily on turret sands while I seared patties on the wee porch. Twilight strolls by the shore. Emily hoarding shells as Margaret and I mapped her path. She'll attend Yale, Margaret declared assuredly. She's inherited your smarts and my grit. Back then, Margaret's drive seemed like fortitude, not scheming. She orchestrated our world with army-like order, timetables, suppers plotted, social logs. I'd return from the college to a hot meal, Emily's assignments done, home spotless. Margaret reveled in crafting our flawless suburban haven, Professor Carlyle's fortunate partner. The locals dubbed her, and she'd glow with pride. She threw Dean suppers, enchanting my peers with sharp wit and flawless dishes. I'd eye her over our feast spread, grateful for someone bridging my scholarly realm and craving for calm hearth. Emily's debut school morning. Margaret wept fiercer than our child. She's vanishing too swiftly. She'd sighed, eyeing Emily vanish inside. That eve, she'd hauled out snapshot books, fingering Emily's infant visage. Vow you'll etch how darling she was then. The hushed nights as Emily grew, tackling studies aloft while Margaret and I sipped Merlot and swapped daily tales. She'd absorb my yarns of tough pupils and faculty feuds, dispensing sound counsel. You're overly lenient with them. Wade, folks occasionally require strict lines. Even our spats differed once. Fiery yet courteous. Clashes over Emily's bedtime or trip spots that resolved in middle ground. Not combat. Margaret could dig in heels, but she'd heed logic. We'd hash it out till solutions pleased us equally. Saturday dawn flea markets. Margaret scouting relics to refurbish. Emily and I lugging her finds. She spotted buried gems. Aged pieces she'd scrape and coat till they shone pricey. All merits revival. She'd claim, stroking a marred bench, you merely need to spot its promise. Yet amid those gilded flashbacks, I spied the initial fissures, Margaret's urge to rule each bit, her aversion to derailed schemes, the clench of her mandible at Emily's spills, her unasked reordering of my den. Minor flaws, then, brushed off in our joint glow. Perched in my present kitchen, those fond echoes felt treasured yet agonizing, akin to viewing pics of the departed. The recollections soured nearing 2019, the annum all fractured. I'd noted shifts in Margaret that vernal season. Fresh outfits, altered scent, abrupt zeal for twilight reading circles that scarce touched volumes. Her mobile turned eternal pal, pinging with messages she'd field in seclusion. When queried, she'd dismiss, merely office matters. Wade, dull property deals. But she'd hug the device guardedly, angling the display from me. The tardy eves kicked off in July, parading homes to out-of-state seekers. She'd justify home post-midnight with tales of tricky purchasers and drawn-out haggles. Yet she'd skip naming sites or buyers if I probed next morn. I stumbled on the prime clue by mishap in August, scanning our charge card bill for an odd fee. Meal for two at Le Cirque, a lavish French eatery uptown on a Wednesday night she'd sworn was a loft tour in Brooklyn. My palm quivered, eyeing the slip. $280 for eats. Margaret forever griped Le Cirque was inflated, pushing us to easy spots for outings. But evidently she'd unearthed a suitor warranting the splurge. The path grew simpler once I knew the signs. In tabs on dates she'd tagged as agent seminars. Buys at lingerie shops when she'd skipped me intimates in ages. Vino samplings. Show seats. Weekend jaunts. All duo shares. None mine. Facing her resembled leaping from a ledge. I held till Emily was secure at uni, then fanned the bills over our supper board like tribunal proofs. How extended has this persisted? Margaret. She lingered in the frame, clad in her slate agent vest, eyeing the sheets with appraising stare. For an instant, I figured she'd refute all. Then her stance stiffened, and I spotted the rebellion I dreaded. You never truly knew me, Wade. She neared the board, stacking the bills tidy. 21 years as Professor Carlyle's ideal consort. Sorting your chaos, hosting your dull associates, feigning I sought no further. Further what we possessed it all. Solid existence. Lovely child. Fiscal ease. We had your take on it all. She wheeled to confront me. Gaze icy. Your subdued suppers. Your bookish pals. Your rote patterns. Do you grasp feeling unseen in your bond? The charge landed like a thud. Unseen. I wove you into all. You wove your spouse into all. The part you craved me filling. But when last did you inquire my true wants? When did my aspirations count? Your aspirations, what aspirations, Margaret? You never voiced discontent. She barked a sour guffaw. Would you have heeded, truly heeded, or dismissed it with one of your logical prof rants? We faced off over the board that bore countless kin feasts, countless glad chats. Now it loomed a war zone strewn with her treachery's traces. Who is he, I murmured soft. A soul who perceives me, a soul who revives me, not merely serves. The split dragged that fall like a dragging wreck. Emily jetted home from school, crushed, striving to bridge us. Can't you mend it, seek therapy, consider our kin. But Margaret had vacated already, hauling half our sticks and bulk of our joint pasts. She'd snagged a flat nearer the core, nearer her fresh path. When I ferried Emily for stays, I'd idle in the auto, glaring at the sleek tower, pondering how 21 years could melt utterly. The closing docks sealed on a drab November dawn in my counsel's den. Margaret sported a crimson frock I'd never spied, tresses coiffed anew. She appeared youthful, content, wholly remade from the dame who'd vowed eternal aging. This serves us best. Wade, she stated, exiting the hall. We each merit joy. But joy, I learned, wasn't merited. It was erected brick by brick daily, with a partner eager to erect alongside. Now, 9 years on in my kitchen, I grasped why Margaret's tone brimmed such toxin. She'd seized her liberty, her thrill, her renewed span. Yet Emily's right compelled her to face the clan she'd raised, to perch opposite the lady who'd aided my rebuild of her ruins. Clara hadn't pilfered me from Margaret. Margaret had discarded me. The trek to Emily's suburban pad clocked precisely 55 minutes. Clara sat hushed beside me as we threaded the known path through New York State meadows. She'd passed the morn crafting blooms for tomorrow's rite. Her mild palms forging grace amid Margaret's foul warnings still resounding in my skull. "Are you certain you're set for this?" I queried, as we rolled into Emily's lane, spotting Benjamin and Susan Hayes's Navy auto, parked beneath the elm. Clara fiddled her satin wrap, a remnant from her mending phase she kept for ease. "Emily craves her kin united this eve. I won't permit your former spouse's gall to taint that." Emily flung the portal wide with feigned cheer, limbs enfolding us both. Spot-on arrival. Benjamin just wrapped the visitor chamber, and the Hayes are aiding supper setup. Her gaze probed mine. All good. Dad utterly. I pecked her brow, drawing in her rose lotion whiff. Tomorrow will shine flawless. The Hayes elders surfaced from the galley, flour speckling Susan's smock as she dabbed her palms. "Wade, Clara, we're baking Emily's grand supper buns. Kin custom, it seems." Robert Hayes clasped my hand stout. "Fine to see you pair. Benjamin's tussling the audio rig in the den, if you'd lend aid." Moments on. Margaret's pearl Audi glided in with timed flair. Tardy for flair. Timely to claim no medal, via the pain. I viewed her primp her mirror, dabbing new rouge ere alighting in an ivory frock, likely topping most folks' paychecks. "The clan's assembled now," Emily murmured. Gripping my limb, Margaret billowed through the entry like a stage diva seizing spotlight. Sweet Emily, my glowing maid. She clutched our girl with overdone fervor, optics sweeping the space to tally watchers. And Benjamin, dashing forever. Her sight hit Clara. "Clara, how sensible you appear this day." Evening. Margaret. Clara's timbre held firm, though I sensed her clasp mine firmer. Emily's abode is charming, ideal for toasting. Indeed, though some toasts outweigh others, Margaret's grin held fast. Kin toasts. Those that count true. All kin toasts hold weight. I cut in, catching her sly omit. Emily smacked her palms. Galley. All. Susan's unveiling Hayes-kin lore. And Mom fetched her famed ZD formula. The supper prep turned a deftly scripted waltz of split allegiances. Margaret claimed the core aisle, commanding like one who'd helmed such bashes oft. The Hayes kin toiled mute at the slab, trading telling looks when strains spiked. "Clara, love," Margaret voiced while hacking veg with excess vigor. "I trust you're sturdy for tomorrow's revels. Long haul's tax, so, for one with your wellness past." "I'm well. Cheers." Clara kept at her bloom setups, acts crisp despite the prod. "Cancer victors are so valiant," Margaret pressed, timbre oozing sham pity. "Though I reckon some skirmishes etch deeper scars than rest." My blade thwacked the slab fiercer than meant. Clara is wholly hale, surely she is. I merely fret over strain. Right days overwhelm, especially for one unused to vast kin throngs. Emily materialized betwixt us like an ump. "Mom, aid me picking the reds. Dad." Benjamin seeks tips on tomorrow's tune list. The night advanced via strained talks and wary seat plots. Emily had schemed the board spots tactically. Margaret at one tip, Clara and me at t'other. She and Benjamin as shields mid. The Hayes kin took safe ground, posing bland queries on skies and leisure schemes. "This home boasts such clever safeguard traits," Margaret noted offhand, glancing the wee lens tucked in the nook. "So current, so full." Emily grinned wide. "Benjamin demanded the whole array post those thefts last annum," Lenses all round, stir detectors, full kit. It soothes me secure. How splendidly broad. Margaret's beam seemed oddly pleased. Seclusion ranks vital in a hearth. Post-supper, Emily doled slumber spots with envoy skill. Mom, blue visitor nook aloft. Dad and Clara, teal chamber along the way. Hayes can claim the prime visitor wing. She halted. Tomorrow dawns swift, so all merit sound repose. In our doled nook later. Clara perched at the wee mirror stand, easing off her satin wrap and grooming the tresses she'd toiled 4 years to reclaim. Shoulder-deep chestnut curls snaring the glow. She's scheming aught, I voiced low, verifying our portal bolted tight. She's ever scheming. Wade. But tomorrow's Emily's. Naught else signifies. I eyed my bride ready for couch. Acts soft and ordered. Post her ailment cure. She'd forged habits for solace. The satin wrap, the tender tress tending, the rose balm easing her unwind. Plain rights Margaret had jeered this night with blade keenness. Whate'er she's plotting, I shan't let her wound you. Clara beamed at me via glass. She can't wound me. Wade, not further. Affection outpowers her toxin. Beyond our nook, the home hushed into calm prep for tomorrow's fate. But slumber evaded, knowing Margaret lurked somewhere over, hatching her next thrust in this feud she'd waged on our bliss. Something yanked me from doze at 6:45. My bod clock, drilled by decades of dawn preps. Rays sifted through the visitor nook's pale veils, tinting all in mild amber. Right day had dawned. Beside me, Clara dozed tranquil, her satin wrap ideal despite night's shifts. She seemed untroubled, lovely, spared yesterday's sly clashes. I grinned, musing how fortunate Emily was with such climb for her right, creeping soft to spare her stir. I tiptoed to the tiny visitor bath, dashed aqua on my face, scrubbed my dentals. The home stayed still. Even Emily and Benjamin held slumber. Fine, all earned ease ere the glee ahead. Back to our couch, I eased by Clara and grazed her arms soft. Morning, lovely, right days here. She roused faint, humming that faint tune I made easing from dreams. I stretched to tweak her wrap, set to greet her with a mild peck. The cloth yielded under my graze, my palm stilled. Where lush, vital tresses ought cushion my digits, I sensed bare dome, warily, dread mounting. I raised the wrap's brim. Clara's locks vanished, utterly vanished. Not the slow shed from her cure we'd ward 4 years back. This was planned, willful. Someone had wielded shears and snipped each strand, leaving mere fuzz over her pate. Clara, my timbre fractured. Sweet, rouse. Her lids lifted, bafflement veiling her traits. Wade, what's amiss I couldn't utter. Couldn't shape terms to spell the spite I beheld. Instead, I led her palm to her crown, viewing her visage shift from drowsy peace to dazed dread. My tresses, she bolted upright, both palms probing her dome. They're gone, all gone. The wrap tumbled full, bearing the ruin's span. Whoe'er wrought this held blade skill, each tuft trimmed to roots. Task done sans rousing us, expert, plotted, methodical. Oh no, oh no, no, no. Clara's timbre splintered to wails. Not anew, please, not anew. I drew her close as she folded, frame quaking with the recall this breach had unleashed. 4 years of tender nurture, 4 years of mend dashed in one night of schemed malice. Who might have I breathed, though my wits already tallied odds? Someone breached our nook as we slumbered. Clara drew back, salt trails down her cheeks. The ailment, When I shed all air, I feared demise. I feared I'd ne'er sense beauty again. You are beauty. Locks alter not. You miss it. Her timbre bore ache slicing deeper than flesh gash. Ill. I eyed the glass and spied doom staring back. Took ages to view self as vital, intact. And now, I scoured our nook methodical, hunting breach marks, portal bolted inward, casement fastened sure. No pry scars anywhere. Someone held a key. I deemed dower. Someone with home reach. Pray don't swell this beyond need. Clara rewound her wrap round her pate, striving some poise. It's Emily's right day. I shan't let this mar her glee. This ain't chance. Clara. This was willed. My thoughts dashed logical paths. Benjamin and Emily'd ne'er harm Clara. The haze held no cause. That spared one with reach and spur. The shears. I rifled the wee space. Drawers and flats. Whoe'er did this bore the shears off. Clara rose wobbly, nearing the glass o'er the bureau. Her mirror unveiled the havoc's full. Years of nurture erased in one spiteful night. She forewarned me. I voiced low. On the wire 3 nights past. Margaret deemed you over-tender for kin rights. You can't know 'twas her. Who else my ire swelled each tick? Who else gains from shaming you on Emily's right day? E'en if her, what's clash yield she'll refute. Emily'll shatter. The right'll crumble. But I strode to the portal. Wrath trumping all. Someone had breached our haven, struck my bride cruelest way, and I wouldn't let them flee reprisal. Wade. Beg. Clara snagged my limb. Mind Emily. Mind what counts most. What counts most is shielding my kin. All my kin. Stir from the galley below betokened others rousing. Ideal. Time for truths. I located Margaret in the galley. Back to frame at the brewpot. She donned a soft azure gown and twin slippers. Tresses coiffed flawless despite dawn hour. Too flawless for one just wakened. Morning. Wade. She held from wheeling, fixed on gauging brew grains. You're astir early for a right day. You wrought this. Margaret. My timbre hurled cross the galley like charge. She wheeled slow. Mien flipping from casual dawn ease to feigned startle. Pardon. What Clara trailed me, still clutching her wrap, tugging me from the clash I craved. Someone snipped Clara's tresses as she dozed. Snipped all off. I pressed deeper in, compelling Margaret face her spite's toll. Your sole gainer from shaming her, snipped her tresses. Margaret's optics bulged with drilled dismay. That's horrid. Who'd enact such cease the feign? Margaret. You menaced her 3 nights back. You tagged her over fragile for kin rights. I voiced no such. She shifted to decant brew. Palms steady mid my barbs. I've been naught but kind to that lady since she joined our fold. Our fold, the terms burst from me. You raised our fold 9 years gone. Footfalls boomed downstairs as Emily and Benjamin surfaced, both in night garb, visages lined with doze and mounting alarm. What's afoot? Emily pressed, eyeing the tableau. Dad. Why bellow? Someone snipped Clara's tresses off in night, I spelled, viewing Emily's mien flip from haze to terror. Snipped all as she slumbered. Oh, mercy. Emily dashed to Clara, grazing her veiled pate soft. Who'd do such vile your mother? I stated blunt. Wade Carlyle. Margaret banged her brew cup on slab. How bold to brand me with such folly. I've been in my nook all night. Benjamin stepped twixt us, palms up Pacific. All. Hush now. Let's sort this sane. Naught to sort. Margaret pressed. Timbre climbing with ire. Perhaps she snipped self for notice. Some crave drama's core any cost. Dare not, I lunged, but Clara snared my limb. Cease, beg, she breathed. This is her aim. The Hayes elders framed the entry, lured by din. Susan cinched her gown snug, brow furrowed fret, while Robert gauged with keen optics. What if intruder Margaret posed, warming her act, someone breached night, this hood's seen woe's heir, home was secured. Benjamin voiced low, guard array set. None entered outer. Then perhaps one within. Margaret snapped back. Though scarce fathom who'd be so base, Emily slumped to a galley stool. Her right day shine crumbling round. Today was to gleam. How's this unfolding because your mother can't bear my content? I voiced, timbre lethally soft, because she'd sooner raise a fold than own her heirs. I won't abide these groundless barbs. Margaret seized her brew and aimed for frame. Some ready aright. Fleeing altars naught you wrought. She paused at sill, wheeling with a beam chilling my veins. Wade, love, you eye leaned to wild fancies. Mayhap weigh if your bride's state clouds your sense. The spite of that last jab hushed all. And Emily gawked her dam with budding grasp of Margaret's core. Out, I voiced low. This ain't your home. Wade, out this galley ere I act we'll both rue. Margaret's beams spread. See, unsteady as I foresaw, she billowed from space, trailing wrecked dawn hush and splintered right dreams. Emily hid face in palms while Benjamin loomed helpless by, at loss to mend the breach. So sorry. Clara breathed to void. Ne'er craved this. But Margaret had erred one key. As I stood that galley viewing my bride soothe my gutted girl, I recalled Emily's note prior eve. Aught about lenses, aught about full guard arrays recordin' all. Hold. Emily halted mid-word, palm to lips. The guard lenses. Benjamin. We've lenses house-wide. Benjamin's optics flared with abrupt ken. Array logs all auto. We pull any span from past 28 days. My pulse raced. Rectitude. At last. Undeniable proof of Margaret's schemed spite. That's sharp, I voiced, striding to den where their media wall loomed. Let's view precise what passed last night. Margaret froze in galley frame, brewcup quivering faint in palms. Truly, needless, we ought fix on right prep. The right Emily's timbre cracked emotion. Mom, one struck Clara in our home, our visitor nook. We must ken who. Benjamin was at the clever screen hauling the guard face. Lenses store to ether hold. Pull any era from last 28 days. This folly, Margaret griped, but her command waned from prior. Surely not all must huddle viewing. Aye, all must. I broke firm. All merit the verity. The Hayes kin neared wary, drawn by uproar. Susan snugged her gown firmer while Robert weighed with shrewd, sage optics. What's brewing now? Susan queried soft. We're scanning guard reels from last night, Benjamin spelled, threading numeral panes. One snipped Clara's tresses as she dozed. How grim. Susan gulped. Palm veiling heart. Who'd enact such dread? Benjamin struck the right face. Here. What our start scan, aim round 1:30 a.m. I posed. Most deep in slumber then. Screen brimmed with sundry lens views. Passage shots. Stair watch. Visitor hall span. Benjamin sped through blank passages. Timestamp flying late night to dawn. There, Clara breathed. Pointing screen. Motion. Benjamin eased the reel. A shape emerged in upper passage, creeping wary down hall to our visitor nook. Figure bore aught wee and gleaming, plain shears, and crept with willed stealth. Ian in faint hall beam. The form rang clear. Mom, Emily exhaled. Timbre scarce audible. That's you. Margaret's brew cup slid from palms, dashing on galley stone. Dark brew fanned cross-floor like charge. Reel rolled, showing Margaret nearing our visitor portal. She paused, ear bent. Then soft-turned knob. Lens angle flipped as Benjamin picked visitor hall view, granting stark shot of Margaret entering our nook. She's got keys to each space, Benjamin voiced low. Home keys, ne'er dreamed. We viewed in chilled hush as Margaret vanished in our nook nigh 18 minutes. When she quit, she bore no shears, palms void, but stance bespoke content. Task fulfilled well. Stamp shows 1:42 a.m. to 2 a.m. Benjamin marked, 18 minutes in your nook. Emily wheeled to dam, salt down cheeks. How plot such base? Not as seems, Margaret faltered, but timbre rang hollow. I was scanning all, ensuring safety. With shears, I pressed. 18 minutes. Robert Hayes voiced first. Timbre-bearing ex-lecturer sway. Mrs. Ellis. The real proof rings plain. Time for candor. Margaret's poise shattered full. She just beamed finer than me, her flawless tresses, flawless bond, flawless we-span post-ailment. Ken you what it's to watch another seize all you forfeited? Space hushed save Clara's soft wails and Margaret's rasped breaths. So, you chose remake her a patient anew, I voiced. Timbre deathly soft. Chose strip the tresses she'd reclaimed post-life fight. Scarce trimmed aught. Margaret whined faint. Her tresses regrow. Not lasting harm. Not lasting. Clara lifted via salt. Grasp you what reclaiming those tresses meant. What it stood for. Emily slumped to stool, veiling face in palms. My right day, you wrecked my right day. I wrecked naught. You're swelling this needless. But Ian Margaret seemed to ken her plea rang void. Proof undeniable. Stark, high-clarity reel of willed spite logged from sundry angles with exact stamps. I deem, Robert Hayes voiced wary. All merit time to mull this coil. Benjamin paused reel array. Last frame locked on Margaret's content quit from our visitor nook. Hush dragged uneasy till Emily voiced final. I crave you gone. Mom, quit our home and shun till you can beg proper. Emily, pet, it's your right day. Aye, my right day, and I spurn fetting ringed by one apt such schemed spite. Margaret scanned space. Hunting back none came. Ian Susan Hayes, born envoy and mild, couldn't meet her gaze. Fine, Margaret voiced at last, squaring shoulders in a move I knew from our split. If thus you all wish, she billowed from space with max poise one snared outright might muster, trailing dashed brew cup and stark truth of her deed. 1 hour on. Clara and I sat in my auto, easing from Emily's home in thick hush. Morn's unveils weighed twixt us like unbid rider, unwelcome yet unignorable. She merits room to ready. I spelled, though Clara'd not quizzed our dawn depart. And frank, I merit room to muse. Clara tweaked her wrap in rider glass. Acts wary and set. Vow you'll release this. Wade, plea struck like thud. Release post what we beheld. Vow. Her timbre bore desperate edge I ne'er heard since her ailment call. Can't bear more strife today. Emily's right ought joy. Not reprisal, I steered to throughway. Fine climb for right. Fine climb for rectitude too. Deeds bear tolls. Clara, true tolls. And some phrase merit not fight. She wheeled to face me. Optics mirroring ache beyond morn's breach. Post all I've endured, post warring ailment and triumph, I've gleaned what counts true. This ain't it. This ain't one willfully striking you. Snipping tresses you toiled fierce to reclaim. Tresses regrow. She voiced low, but kin scars might not knit. Emily just exiled her dam from right day. Ain't that suffice? I clutched wheel taught knuckles blanched gainst dark hide. Naught suffice, scarce suffice. We motored mute miles, passing known marks, tracing our path back to city. Burbs yielded to town crush, but my wits clung to real we'd witnessed. Margaret's wary plot, her timed strike, her content at spite task done. You miss, I voiced final. You muse this as one-faced true end, true storm, but I muse as one failed shield you. Failed shield me, Wade, you couldn't forestall this. Could have pressed hotel stay, could have spied her peril, could have… Halt. Clara reached cross to graze my limb. You're not for her picks, but I for mine. Aught in my tone made her clasp sleeve firmer. What means that couldn't meet her optics? Means I can't pardon this willful spite, can't feign it past not, and can't let her flee tolls. What tolls in lieu reply? I took ramp to our quarter, wits already threading odds. Margaret had shamed Clara open, willed on our girl's right day. Rectitude craved matched reply. Vow, Clara voiced anew. Timbre tinier now. Vow you shun aught to heighten this. Vow I shun aught harming Emily's right. That ain't same. No. Ain't. We rolled to our lane 35 minutes on. Talk unknit and strain crackling twixt. Clara climbed out slow. Drain plain in each shift. Morn's shock had sapped her full. I'm to doze ere we ready, she voiced, shunning my optics. Pray shun folly while I rest. I viewed her stride to front portal, shoulders bowed, defeat and drain. She'd outlasted ailment, reforged span, learned trust anew. Margaret had struck all that with blade keen. In our home, I decanted brew and sank at my board. Same spot Margaret's wire had sparked this ordeal 3 days back. But now I held edges I lacked then. Proof, witnesses, and chief, stark ken of Margaret Ellis's true grain. My mobile hummed with Emily's script. Dad, so sorry about Mom. You and Clara sound right still 5 p.m. Love you pair. I tapped back. Will there. Wouldn't miss your milestone. But I skipped what else I'd bear to that right. Margaret craved mind games. She'd picked wrong foe, while Clara dozed aloft. I launched calls. The Grand Regency Inn sprawled over 4 acres of groomed lawns in Manhattan. Its granite face agleam in late noon rays. Prime spot for Emily's dream right. Graceful, classic, with room for both glee and, if need, open unveil. It's stunning, Clara murmured as we paced main entry. She'd picked a slate gown suiting her wrap. Poise firm despite Morn's shock. Emily's taste shines. She draws from both sires. The right would unfold in inn's lawn yard with feast after in joining hall. Kin already streamed in. Blend of Emily's labor mates, Benjamin's tech kin, and far-flung clan who'd trekked for fate. We claimed seats front row. Kin band plain with wee bloom knots. Cross lane. Seats yawned stark void. Margaret's band awaiting her. Think she'll truly come, Clara queried low. Oh, she'll come. Margaret shuns no drama chance. Robert and Susan Hayes surfaced, both clad sharp and seeming somewhat mended from Morn's unveils. They picked seats wary, setting twixt kin bands like envoy buffers. Wade, Clara. Robert nodded stiff. How hold you pair were sound? I replied. Today Emily's glee. Aye. His optics held probes too courtly to voice, more streamed. Emily's school pals, Benjamin's kin from Jersey, hood neighbors from their burbs. Plain folk in plain spans, blind to mind wars preceding this fate. The chord ensemble struck March airs, hailing right kick in 12 minutes. Still no Margaret sign. Mayhap she chose shun. Clara hoped low. Then I spied her. Margaret billowed through yard entry like film idol at gala. She donned ivory silk gown likely outpricing most pay, twinned with pearls and stilts adding 2 inches to height. Tresses coiffed ideal, face pro-done, overkill. I kenned. She aimed Swamp Morn's shame with sheer splendor. That gown unfit. Clara noted low, or formal, or eye grab. Margaret halted at entry, scanning throng with plotting optics. When sight struck us, her beam turned hunter. She wended down lane, halting to hail guests with overdone warmth. Clara, love. Her timbre hurled cross-yard as she neared our band. That rap so handy for one in your spot. Sundry near guests wheeled to gawk, sensing strain but unsure source. Evening. Margaret. Clara replied flat. You seem thirst for notice. Just toasting our girl's milestone. Though reckon some cope strain elsewise. I sensed mandible lock, but held seat. Not yet. Not mid-right. Margaret pressed her show. Claiming front row, cross us prominent. She flapped at guests, puckered to far kin, and general ruled notice like spare maid. March airs swelled. Right band launched entry. Benjamin's aides paced gauged steps, trailed by Emily's maids in pale lilac gowns. At last, Emily bloomed on arm of her uncle, my kin Jack, who'd winged from Florida to yield her. She gleamed, pure gleamed, snow silk gown trailing, veil snaring breeze, face alight, pure glee. For instant, all morn's foul faded. This counted. Emily's delight, Emily's morrow, Emily's ideal tick. Right flowed fair, heartfelt oaths, moved band swap, old unity taper light. Emily and Benjamin eyed each with love kind making watchers trust ever. But through right, I tracked Margaret's place and acts. She patted optics with lace cloth mid-moved beats, posed sly for snapper note, whispered asides to near guests. She's forging her tale. I breathed to Clara mid-band swap, acting doting damn. Let her, Clara breathed back. Long as she shuns Mar Emily's tick. The parson dubbed them wed. Benjamin pecked Emily with soft fire while guests burst claps. Snapper lamps flashed, nabbing ideal tick for keeps, as fresh pair wended back lane. Guests shifted to feast zone. Sip hour spanned 80 minutes, then supper and sway. Ample span for my scheme. Wade. Clara snared my limb as we rose. Whate'er you muse, pray rethink. I'm musing rectitude, I replied low. And oft rectitude needs open unveil. She probed my optics, spying aught uneasing her. Vow you shun wreck Emily's feast. Vow I shun wreck aught counting. But as we paced to hall, I checked coat pouch last. The stick drive with Morn's guardrail felt firm, aimed 'gainst digits. Margaret craved games. Tonight, she'd learn true rules. The tick struck with chime of bubbly flutes and soft dim of hall beams. Feast supper wrapped ideal, 4 plats of grand inn fare. Reds free flow, guests lax and glad. Emily beamed bridal shine while Benjamin glowed by. Both blind to brewing gale, time for toasts. Right guide hailed, tweaking mic at head. We'll launch with sire of maid. Clara's palm found mine under board, squeezing soft. Pray keep plain. Wade, just hail their bliss. I rose slow, sensing stick drive's heft in coat pouch. 90 guests wheeled keen faces my way. Wine warmed and credent. Prime crowd for my plot. Cheers all for joining to hail Emily and Benjamin's grand right day. I launched, my prof timbre hurling easy cross hall. Today we mark not mere bond, but weld of two fine folds. Claps rippled space. Emily beamed proud while Margaret, at board cross space, preened content. She'd toiled eve crowd, reforging social perch post-morn's fall. Emily, you gleam absolute. And Benjamin, luckiest soul alive to claim such rare dame. More claps. Bond instructs love. Vow and chief. Shielding cherished. Word shielding bore weight. Though soul I yet kenned its load. Sundry ken my bride Clara ward bold 'gainst ailment 4 years back. I wheeled slight to her, noting how she braced at unbid path. 2 years she shed her fair tresses to cure. When they reclaimed at last, more than pride, stood her win or ill, her might, her outlast, her faith. Murmurs of pity and awe rose from guests wise to Clara's trek. She eyed, puzzled yet moved by open hail. Those tresses held dear to her, dear to all loving her. Margaret fidgeted uneasy in seat. Mayhap sensing toast's odd bend, her beam grew strained. This morn, one crept our visitor nook as Clara dozed peace. My timbre firmed plain. One snipped all her tresses with shears, leaving her bare-domed anew. Gasps rang cross hall. Guests swapped stunned looks while Emily's face blanched with budding dread. This ne'er chance or jest. Willed spite aimed shame a survivor on her girl's right day. Margaret half rose from seat, face flushing crimson. Wade, unfit. Doer craved rob Clara poise. Faith, survival mark. I pressed sans note break. Craved remake her ill-seeming, frail seeming, bested seeming. Halt this now. Margaret's timbre cracked panic. That doer was Margaret Ellis. Maid's dam. Terms dropped like boulders in still pond. Rippling stun through space. We've high sharp real proof of her willed acts snared by guard lenses in Emily's home. Full hush gripped hall. 90 faces wheeled twixt me and Margaret. Mulling charges heft. She struck frail dame to slake her envy and gall. Breached our fold home's safety for this mind war act. Margaret rose full now, palms quaking rage and fear. You're wrecking Emily's right day. Nay, Margaret, you wrecked it instant you deemed spite fit. I'm just hailing all grasp what grain we cope in fold. I regained seat as stunned hush dragged cross hall. Talks erupted each board, muffled urgent swaps as guests soaked unveil. Margaret loomed, lone in judgment seas. Wade, Clara breathed. Timbre blend dread and thanks. You ne'er had to. I did. I squeezed her palm soft. Rectitude craved open reply to open spite. Emily gawked, cross space at dam with traits whirling twixt betrayal, loathe, deep letdown. The dream right turned else full. A tally. Stunned hush dragged what felt endless. Though scarce 25 seconds, 90 guests sat locked. Bubbly flutes forgot. Mulling wrecking unveil, shattering fate air. Then whispers launched. Did he say she snipped a patient's tresses? Murmur from Emily's school board. Voices hailing an o'er hush hall, while she dozed. Another timbre, dread and unbelieving, absolute vile. Robert Hayes voiced loud for near boards here. His mate, Susan, nodded fierce, face lined true loathe. Margaret loomed at her board, hunting wild for back or pity. Finding none, she tried mend. You're hearing soul one tale. She hailed out, timbre shrill, desperate. Wade swells what passed for show. We viewed real proof this morn. Emily voiced low, but terms hurled cross still space. Mom, we all watched you enact. Kin gasp rose from guests. Real proof quashed any haze or swell chance. How one enact that to survivor Susan Hayes's timbre quavered fond. She rose from board and paced straight to Clara, laying mild palm on shoulder. Dear, you're vast brave for here tonight. Other guests stirred too. From Margaret's board to ours, flesh shift spake louder than terms on where hearts lay. Not excuse such act, hailed Prof. Jenkins from my college, known for gauged views, striking one as they doze, coward move. She ought shame, his mate added, not minding drop voice. Margaret's face wheeled red shades as she kenned social perch steamed real time. I shielded my fold stake. She aimed eclipse me at my girl's right. Plea just worsened. Sundry guests recoiled at selfish claim. Shielding your stake, Emily rose, right gown rustling her force, by striking my stepdam as she dozed. By snipping tresses, she reclaimed post-warring ailment. Benjamin laid back palm on fresh bride's shoulder. Mrs. Ellis, reckon you ponder quit. Pose hung air like doom. Guests nodded accord, while Margaret scanned frantic for lingering mates. Emily, love, sure you shun exile own dam. You exiled self with acts. Emily voiced firm. Embarrassed call you damn now. Social loan full and wrecking. Margaret's board sat void as ex-mates found pretexts shift else. Talks rolled round her, but she joined none. Outcast at own girl's right. Can't credit we've known her ages and ne'er spied her reach. One breathed behind me. That frail dame. Another voiced, hailing Clara. Outlast ailment, then have one willfully strip recovery mark. Monstrous. Clara sat low by me, taking pity from steady guest stream nearing our board. Her poise mid-open unveil marked, gracious, staid, truly moved by back. Cheers, she voiced each. Your mildness counts more'n you ken. Margaret tried last desperate grip. This meant hail Emily and Benjamin. You're letting Wade turn it foul, but charge rang flat. All wise the foul sparked her acts. Not their bare, deeds crave tolls, I voiced low, though terms hailing near boards. Spite merits not hush reward. Sense rang clear. Nod accords rippled throng as guests spied rectitude and open tally for hid wrongs. Margaret clutched purse with quaking palms, at last owning perch untenable. Trek to hall quit craved cross full space under 90 witnesses judge gazed to her shame. She took first step to portal, and true tolls of her spite launched. Trek cross hall stretched like judge path. Each step Margaret took to quit bore her past guest boards, who tracked her with bare contempt and letdown. Talks held not. They swelled, forging judgment wall, whispering trailing her retreat. Post all Clara endured. One murmured as she passed. Spite's reach just awe-striking. Came another. Margaret held chin high, striving poise, while her wrought social mask crumbled round. But I spied palm quiver, faint heel hitch in her lavish stilts, breath gone shallow swift. She paused at hall entry, wheeling for last desperate plea. Emily, pray don't let him wheel you 'gainst own dam. Emily lifted from headboard, ringed by pals and Benjamin's kin, lending back and soothe, not wheeling 'gainst you. Mom, wheeling from one striking frail as they doze. Final spurn struck Margaret like flesh blow. Shoulders sagged faint ere she squared anew. In that shift I recalled from split halls, false nerve masking full best. She vanished through frame, trailing soul echo of whispered dooms and kin sigh of fold, witnessing rectitude served. Wade, Clara voiced low, palm finding mine on board. Thanks for shield me. Ever, I replied. Full meant. Emily neared our board. Right gown trailing like silk cloud and redeem. Dad, I ken why you had enact this. Deeds can't ignore or pardon, hush. Your glee counts chief, I voiced, rising to clasp her. Couldn't let her toxin mar this day with spite. Benjamin joined, limb circling fresh bride's waist. Sir, you showed true mettle bearing that. Clara merited rectitude, and Frank. We too merited Ken, who we coped true. The Hayes elders neared, both shook but eased. Prof. Carlyle, Robert voiced stiff. What you wrought took vast might. Deeds crave open tally. None ought strike survivor. Susan added firm. Special not kin. That dame need face tolls. Round us. Feast slow reclaimed fate air. Guests stunned to hush launched talk and laugh anew. Strain fading like mist in gale. Band struck soft back airs. Servers wheeled with post-sip drafts. Eye round, I voiced to Clara, gesturing renewed fate. All here back you, honor you, ringed by folk spying your might and poise. She beamed. First true beam all day, I sense it. First since morn, I sense safe and prized. Emily reclaimed headboard where Benjamin readied their right cake slice. Snapper nabbed tick after tick of glee and fate, shots preserving day's win or woe. One college mate neared, draft in palm, weighed, handled brilliant, gave that dame exact she merited, open tally for hid spite, rectitude craved matched reply. I replied, she craved shame, Clara open, so open bare seemed fit, through hall panes. I glimpsed Margaret's pearl Audi easing from lot, tail beams vanishing eve dark, quit loan, social bested, repute in shards, exact tolls her acts merited. She'll muse twice ere striking else, Clara noted low. She'll muse twice ere showing face this hood again. I mended. Deeds, once fired. Bridge ne'er rebuild, as eve pressed. Guest after guest neared our board with back terms. Hail for my shield acts, and true fondness for Clara. Fold spake clear on values. Spite not born, frail shielded. Rectitude served. Emily and Benjamin's prime sway launched. Slow glide seeming wash eve's prior storm. They moved sync ideal, lost in optics, ringed by love and back of folk true carrying their glee. Ideal close, I breathed. Viewing girl claim dream after all. Clara leaned my shoulder. Content and peace first in days. Rectitude served. Fold shielded. Love wins. I. Ideal. Fate rolled deep eve, but true win already claimed. Stark show spite bears tolls, shielding frail worth any social cost, and oft open bare soul fit reply to hid wrong. Margaret gleaned lesson ne'er forgot. Deeds crave open tally, and some spurn bully to hush. Justice scales, once tipped by her schemed spite, balanced anew. As the music swelled and laughter echoed once more, Wade held Clara close, their hearts mending in the glow of true victory. Margaret's shadow had lifted, replaced by unbreakable bonds of love and resolve. In that moment, they all knew cruelty crumbles, but kindness endures. What struck you most about this tale of retribution and redemption? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Did justice feel served, or would you have chosen differently? Drop your questions here, and let's discuss together. Your insights fuel our community, interact with the channel, and connect with fellow listeners. For the next gripping story, just click the box on the left. Thank you for joining this journey. Until next time.